So let's say you're new to the gym, you never trained before, or you just don't really know what you're doing. Let me take you through the basic structure of a work. Personally, I always like to start people with lower, and I always like to start with something that's got more of a quadricep bias to it. This can be very intimidating on your first session. So when people first used to come into a session with me, I get them to sit in a squat. Not many people can sit very well in a squat, and if they can, I bypass this, but if not, one of the first things we get people to do is a rear foot elevated split squat. Quite simply, we get them to stand in front of a box, we get them to put their rear foot back on it, and then we get them to lower themselves down and back up. Maybe a slightly longer stance, get them to come here, down, and back up. We go with the weaker leg first. There is no weak leg in this picture, but for them there will be. Then again, they go to the other leg, put a foot back on the box, and suddenly that person, even if they never do personal training with me, can go into any gym that has a bench and train their quadriceps and their lower body in general. Second thing I get people to do, I go, sweet, cool, there's an exercise that keep you busy for the next 6 weeks. Let's see if you know how to load your posterior chain. And what that means in English is, can they lean forward and load their hamstrings? If I was to ask my mum to pick something up from the floor, she'd do this. Her spine would resemble a fishing rod. And very simply, when it comes to the world of picking up weights from the floor, we want to lean forward and feel a stretch in our hamstrings. We want to give that load to the muscles on the back of our body. Imagine the muscles in our posterior chain being like a crane. When a crane arm lowers, the cables at the back have to lengthen for that to happen. Then the cables at the back will tighten up to get the crane arm to come back up. The way that you can engage your posterior chain, the way I do it with clients, I get them to stand, knees off lock. From where they're standing, I get them to take their chest to the floor, and their bum goes to the back of the room to press an invisible button. So we're going to imagine there's an invisible button on the back of the wall. They go back and they touch it with their ass. So then when we bring a weight into it, any person, even if you don't know how to deadlift, can stand on top of a weight. You don't stand next to it, you stand on top of it. Squat down, you pick it up. Then from here, invisible button, stretch, come back up, invisible button, stretch, come back up. As long as the weight stays in line with the feet, you're going to be fine. Try picking stuff up like this. It's just an inefficient means of doing so. Cool, so now we've worked the lower body, what next? We could do some core exercises, but that's pretty boring. What you really need to do is some push and some pull. Now, before setting you up on a bench and setting your scapulas and doing all of that, again, the majority of clients I got, put them on a plyometric box. If that's too hard, you just make it higher. If it's higher, there's less weight going through the arms. Get them to do 10 push-ups. Find a height that's difficult enough for that, then over time you'd say to them, listen mate, as you progress over time, you just make the box lower and you eventually end up on the floor. When it comes to pull exercises, we're doing chin-ups, we're doing bent over rows, we're doing no, just use a suspension trainer. These are completely fine. They'll keep you busy. Every good gym's got one, and you just go pull yourself in to the anchor point. And you can mix up your arm position. That's a basic training program for 90% of people that get into the gym. You do that 3 times a week and always look to progress and make it a little bit harder. You are on your way to being a gym veteran. Maybe not so. But if you're someone that doesn't want to follow a program, do those exercises for a few weeks. You'll be like, oh, do you know what? I feel better. I'm progressing already. Well, if you got that for free, imagine what you'd get if you paid me. I'll put a link in the description. If not, there'll be a link in the bio. You can trial my online personal training platform from completely free. So give it a go. Bye-bye.